boys and girls, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of the latest installment in the Mad Max franchise, Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. This go around, once again, the film is directed by the great George Miller. It stars Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth. And as I said before, this is the fifth film in this film franchise, and it serves as a spin-off slash prequel to Mad Max Fury Road, which came out in 2015. And this film focuses on the character of Furiosa, who was originally portrayed in Fury Road by Charlize Theron. And this was one of my most highly anticipated films of the year. I was super excited for Furiosa, especially coming off the heels of Mad Max Fury Road, which I have regarded as one of the greatest action films of all time. I don't care if you go back to the 50s, 30s, 40s, wherever. I'm taking all that into account. Mad Max Fury Road is such a cinematic achievement in action filmmaking that I don't think it can be touched. And it was going to be a tall task for this prequel to get close to it. But regardless, here we go. Furiosa, Mad Max Saga, it picks up with Furiosa being snatched from the green place of the many mothers and falls into the hands of the great biker horde led by the warlord Dementus, who is portrayed by Chris Hemsworth in this film. Sweeping through the wasteland, they come across the Citadel, presided over by the immortal Joe. While the two tyrants war for domination, Furiosa must survive many trials as she puts together the means to find her way home. This film is coming out in a summer of 2024, where we're getting some less than satisfying results from films. The Fall Guy fell short. We had Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. It did pretty good, it's doing pretty good so far, but it isn't blowing the doors out of the movie theaters, box office wise, if fail. And this film, set in Memorial Day, comes out on Memorial Day weekend. Will it give it that jolt, it being the summer movie season, that jolt that it needed, that first hit of the summer? We have yet to get that first hit of the summer, and we're about to cross over into June. Well, going by the box office is not. It didn't do bad as opening weekend, but it didn't do great either. And when I went to go see it in the theater, it was me, my wife, and maybe two other couples that were there. It wasn't filled. It wasn't packed. And the theater that we went to is a 14-screen theater. And I would say 6 of them were Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. And so you can kind of put that into account. But we went to the best one. I went to the premiere, the Dolby Digital theater. So I guess nobody wanted to spend the extra bucks on it or whatever the case may be. It is what it is. But I can walk away saying I enjoyed this movie. Was it on par with Mad Max Fury Road? No. If you're going into this film expecting a 2-hour car chase, which pretty much what Mad Max Fury Road was, just explosions and car crashes and just insanity, you're not getting it in this film. And so you've been forewarned. Now, had I been looking for that going into this, I would have been disappointed. And so I know there's a lot of people who probably enjoyed Mad Max Fury Road, thinking this is a continuation of that style, that type of movie, just an action-packed from beginning to end type film. No, you're not getting it, and you're going to be disappointed. Lower your expectations in that regard. I thank God that when I went, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting a story because it's a prequel. This is an origin story of sorts. So you knew it was going to be a lot of storytelling here. Uh, Automatically, I knew that we were going to get a lot of story. It wasn't going to be a lot of action in this film, but there was action, and it was awesome. So it's not a lot. It you don't get it at the volume that you got it in the previous film, but the action set pieces that you do get are outstanding. It's outstanding. Let's start with this cast here. Let's go over this cast. Anya Taylor-Joy taking over the reins from the great Charlize Theron in this film as Furiosa. Um, I guess this is a slight spoiler, even though I'm not going to get into story elements of it, but she's not in this movie long. I'll just let you know that now. Now, Furiosa is in it from beginning to end, but she's not in it. Anya Taylor-Joy isn't in it a lot because we had a lot of setup with her younger self, which is understandable because, once again, origin story. So we knew that going in, but we didn't get a lot. Honestly, if you put pen to paper, the young actress who plays the younger version of Furiosa, I think she has more screen time than Anya Taylor-Joy. It's not a lot of Anya Taylor-Joy in this film. Now that did catch me off guard. I didn't. I knew we were going to get a lot of the younger self of Furiosa, but I didn't know we weren't going to get a lot of Anya Taylor-Joy. But what we did get from her was great. I enjoyed her in this role. She was, I mean, I can honestly say that her portrayal of Furiosa is lock and step with Charlize Theron. I think she channeled Charlize Theron, and she was perfectly cast and did an excellent job as Furiosa. I have no complaints with her. Now, I do have a little like nitpick. I will say this: we didn't need Anya Taylor-Joy. I think they could have used Charlize Theron again. Honestly, going by that time period that she popped up in, it made sense. You could have used Charlize Theron, but they used Anya Taylor-Joy. I'm not mad. It's good. It was good. She was good. Not mad at her. I think that was more of an executive filmmaker decision to go with a younger actress when you probably really didn't need a younger actress, especially when you take into account how this film ends. And so it's kind of like, did they really need to use Anya Taylor-Joy? They could have went back to Charlize Theron for that. But it's all good. She did an excellent job. But the star of this movie, the Grand Theft Auto that was committed by Chris Hemsworth as he just stole this movie. Chris Hemsworth was amazing. This performance goes up there with Thor. I'm not joking. I'm not I'm not speaking in hyperbole or nothing like that. This goes up there with his Thor. I loved him in this role. Absolutely loved him. I want to see him as a villain more. He was excellent in this role. Straight up stole the movie. It was his movie. It should have been called Dementis. He was the star. Honestly, he was the star. And when I left the theater, I told my wife it's weird that Mad Max Fury Road was a Mad Max film that was stolen by Furiosa. And here we are in a Furiosa film that was stolen by the male co-star. It's weird how those two films parallel each other in those ways. It's I don't know if that was done on purpose, but it's just funny to me. But yes, he did an excellent job as Dementis in this film because he had depth. He wasn't your just typical mustache twirling villain, one note villain. He actually had depth to his character that we normally don't get in these type of movies. These Mad Max films. Very, very compelling. You really can get behind him. It was a moment in the film where felt kind of sorry for him. I was really like, oh man, I really can get behind him. Now that could be some of my Thor bias, that I think of him as Thor. But he is far from Thor. I know I compared the performance to the Thor performance, but I just meant as how good it was. But as far as two characters are concerned, completely different characters, completely different look. You know, he had that prosthetic nose and the way he spoke. It was everything was just money with that character. Uh, George Miller directed the piss out of this movie. He directed the mess out of it. I mean, this movie was beautifully shot, well paced, put together fairly well, man. I mean, these set pieces were just chaotic, man. I'm looking at all of the extras and the I know a lot of green screen was used. I know a lot of visual effects were used, but this felt lived in. This world felt lived in, and that's what you need from these kind of dystopian, post-apocalyptic type films. If it doesn't feel real, the movie fails, and this feels real, and all of them have. All five of the Mad Max films felt that way. I wasn't doubting that going in, and I definitely felt good about it leaving out. My negatives of this film is, as much as I enjoyed the pace of it, it does get kind of sloggy in the middle. It's a couple of scenes there that you have to question, like, did we really need that scene? You know, did it really help the story move along? You know, stuff like that. Uh, the passage of time wasn't really explained. I didn't understand. There was a couple of moments where I was like, okay, where are we picking up at? We see that there's a time jump, but I have no idea how long this time jump is. You know, how long that lasted. What has happened between that time? And it kind of threw it off. And then, especially like at the end of the film, when you're trying to piece it together, when it directly links up with Mad Max Fury Road. I guess that's a spoiler. I'm whatever. Well, it's a prequel. Come on, I'm not really spoiling. I'm not really spoiling that. But you're like, okay, so if that's there, and you think of the events of Fury Road, and you're like, well, okay, so how much time has passed? Because no way that could have happened in a short amount of time that is kind of depicted in this film. It's like logically, it didn't make sense to me. And you know, I've been struggling with that since I seen it till I sat down to record this show. It's been kind of a tough one for me. Like, it really it's bugging me. It's really bugging me because it didn't make sense. It don't make sense. And I'm pretty sure I can go on YouTube and somebody has broken down the whole timeline and make it make sense. And I hope they do. I hope I find that video and I can you know, be able to get some sleep tonight. But as of right now, it's like a head scratcher, a real head scratcher. You know, certain things were done, and this is the fear when you go into a prequel. When you do prequels, you have to line up with the existing property. So if you do a prequel and you set something up in the prequel that wasn't acknowledged in the original film, it's like, what is that? What was the purpose of that? Dropping that nugget there, that little Easter egg, if you will, because it's never been addressed unless they plan to do more that's set after Fury Road and then they go back and address it. Okay, fine, but now I have to wait for that. But I didn't see certain things. I'm trying to tiptoe around it. Certain things that happen in Furiosa that would directly affect Mad Max Fury Road, which already has come out, but it wasn't addressed in Mad Max Fury Road. You know, not even a glorified pop up or a little wink and a nod to certain things. Now I know that this film was developed after that film came out, so you know it's not like they're gonna go back and retroactively film a scene and put it in Fury Road to acknowledge what happened in Furiosa. But if that was the case, you shouldn't have put it in this film because it really didn't make or break it. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it for my negatives. My big positive for this film, the one thing that makes this film stand out outside of the previous four Mad Max films, this is probably the best written Mad Max film in the entire franchise. There was an actual screenplay involved in this in this film because it is historically known that Mad Max Fury Road didn't really have a script. It was more of storyboards of action sequences. It really wasn't much dialogue, and uh, it was just put together, but it was put together well. But this was a well written film. I mean, it deserves acknowledgement. This that it is the best written film in the franchise. I mean, story, backstory, emotion, all that. You actually had characters that talked. You know, Mad Max don't talk in those movies, so to have characters that talk is a joy. Now Furiosa didn't do much talking, but everybody else did. You know, and that saved the day. Overall, I enjoyed it. I really did. I liked it when I walked out, but I'm starting to like it a little more as I let it settle in my head. You know, before I started recording, I like it a lot. Um, is it one of the best in the franchise? No, it's not one of the best, but it is truly a good addition to the Mad Max franchise. Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, gets a letter grade of a B minus. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. And I recommend going and see this in the theater. I recommend the best theater you can go to, sound quality wise, you know, because it was beautiful to sit in there and you can hear the leather, you know, those quiet moments, you know, because they wearing leather and leather boots and stuff, and you can hear the leather scratching when they stand up or they shift their body weight to one side and stuff. It was just little nuances like that that made you appreciate this film more. It and it's throughout, you know, the car chase scenes and the sounds of those motors revving up. Oh my God, it was beautiful. You know, just it was just put together well. Like I said, George Miller, he knocked it out of the park. I would love to know, have you checked out Furiosa and what did you think? Or are you waiting to see Furiosa and waiting to hear my opinion? Which hey, thank you. Well, my opinion is go check it out. But I would love to know your thoughts. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for this show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. That's also a good way to get in contact with us over here, as well as YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and give this video a like. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. I want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.